Hey everybody, Steve Browski. Welcome to tip 44 in the series 101 tips to ace your next promotional examination. All right, let's get started here. As a reminder, my website, www.code3firetraining.com, has lots of great free information on there. Check it out if you haven't had a chance to do so. Also, this series is based on my latest book from Fire Engineering Books and Videos, 101 Tips to Ace Your Promotional Exam, available off their website, fireengineeringbooks.com, or also my website below, Code 3 Fire Training. And in the green box in the bottom left, you'll see a 25% off code. If you have any issues using that, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to do what I can to make it win-win for you. All right. Tip number 44. I've talked about a lot of different tips to help not just prepare you for obviously the test itself, but the position and hopefully long-term success. Now, we've talked about, obtaining experience. We've talked about getting formal education, training, certifications. Now I'm going to sort of build upon the education and training and talk more about credentials. Now, some people could say that like a 4-year degree or 2-year degree is a credential. I mean, it really is an educational credential, I guess. I'm not going to mince words, but I'm going to talk about some different types of professional credentials, most notably stuff that you may get like at the National Fire Academy, or maybe your state fire marshal's office, or state fire training, whatever your state, I guess, state training or state fire marshal's office is called. Maybe your state recognizes NFPA or Pro Board or IFSAC certs, but regardless, let me start just the National Fire Academy programs. Now, National Fire Academy, I'm gonna pimp that till the day I die, and I say pimp it. It's a positive term, and don't take that negatively. I started going to the National Fire Academy, I think 2006, when I was first accepted in the Executive Fire Officer program. At the time, the EFO, as it's called, EFO program, was a 4-year program. You go 2 weeks a year for a total of 8 weeks over 4 years. You write research papers, and it really helps you be a better chief officer and just better leader. Well, when I got there in 2006, I'd been in the fire service maybe 14 years, give or take. And it wasn't until I got there that I realized I wish I would have gone there a long time, way earlier than I did. Meaning, there's classes for everybody. If you take a look at their catalog online, it's, the schedule's online, all the classes are online on their website. There's classes for everybody. I mean, all ranks of personnel, whether you're a volunteer, your career, whether you are a firefighter and only want to be a firefighter, or maybe you're an engineer. I mean, they don't have quote pumping classes, driver operator, types of classes, but there's classes that pretty much can fit every rank, hazmat classes, leadership classes, supervisory classes, community risk reduction, fire prevention, command and control, strategy and tactics. I mean, it's an endless, I guess, glut, for lack of a better term, in a positive way, of classes. Now, if you're someone that's preparing for company officer position, I encourage you to check out the Managing Fire Officer program. If you're already a company officer and you're aspiring to maybe a chief officer, check out the EFO program as well too. Now, they both retooled both those programs, so they're sort of a more condensed program versus 4 years. I think they're both about 2 years now. And, there's a combination of requirements to complete the program. You got to write a research paper, do other things, but it's a great chance to network, build relationships with others. But back to why you go to the National Fire Academy. You don't know what you don't know. I know there's a lot of folks in our department that I always try to encourage every year. It's like, hey, twice a year, they have an open application period. So if you're not familiar with how it works, twice a year, usually it's like April 15th to June 15th, they'll open up classes for the next, whatever, for the fall and into the early next year. And then come again 6 months later, usually October 15th through December 15th, then they'll be opening up classes for like the next period. So it's like twice a year, April 15th to June 15th, and then again from October 15th to December 15th. So it's clockwork. You'll see it on their website. And they'll usually have classes booked out for about 1.5 years, so you can sort of plan ahead. And the application process, they've made it very easy. It's on the website. You just fill out the stuff there. It gets routed to your fire chief for final signature. The cost is pretty much minimal. And I say minimal because they cover your airfare, they cover your lodging, and all you really got to do is pay for the meal ticket, the meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They have a cafeteria there. I think for the two, I'm going in December, I've got a safety program class that I'm taking then. And I think the meal ticket was like $318 for the 6 days that I'm there, give or take. Now, I love the National Fire Academy, but you can't really go off camp. Well, you can't go off campus. You're not a prisoner there, but for lunch, it's not conducive to go off because you only get an hour, and that's why you go to the cafeteria. And the same like with breakfast, if you need to eat anything. But for dinner, most people tend to go out because there's a lot of things to do. Emmitsburg has a few places around there within walking distance downtown. The Yacht House is just synonymous with National Fire Academy. Great, cool little pub there. And there's a few other little restaurants, but then Gettysburg is about 10 minutes up the road with a lot of other restaurants. So there's a lot of great options there. But the reason you go there is obviously the education and training. But in the bigger picture, the networking, the relationships you're going to build, the hanging out with others of all walks of life. I mean, you're going to go there thinking your problems are unique, and then you're going to be at the command post pub or at the Yacht House having a beer afterward, going, wow, this guy in Wyoming has the exact same issues I got in California. The only thing different is the names have changed and the patches and union agreements have changed. I mean, we all have the same issues, but again, back to credentialing. For those that are aspiring officers, company officers or chief officers, please check these programs out. I think they're well worth it. Not everyone gets in on the first year because you usually have to apply, and they only have like an open enrollment for these programs. Obviously, the other classes you can apply twice a year. And if you're on their mailing list and you check their website, a lot of classes don't fill. So even if you miss the deadline to apply, a lot of classes are still open, and they want to fill the classes because that's the whole goal, is to keep getting the money to be able to send us there, is to run the classes. So sometimes I know people get lucky like a month out and go, wow, there's vacancies, put in for it, but get there if you haven't. Great bunch of, and so much history back there in that area. I mean, like I said, Gettysburg is 10 minutes away. All right, enough in the NFA, but reach out if you ever have any questions. I'm more than happy to help you there. Now, state-wise, within your respective state fire marshal's office, state fire training, sorry, I was looking for the words there. Most states have some form of like, firefighter, fire inspector, fire officer, chief officer, fire instructor, fire prevention, certs related to specialty positions. Now, when you went through your department's recruit academy and maybe the probationary period, you may or may not have been offered the opportunity to be given a firefighter 1 or firefighter 2 certification when you're done with it. Now, there's many departments like mine that, even though we don't require firefighter 1 or 2, we will put you through the firefighter 1 and 2 training during your probationary period, and then we'll make sure that you get that cert, because it's beneficial to have it. And if you ever want to go up to like the next level, like fire officer, maybe you usually got to have the prerequisite one like firefighter 1 or 2. So check those out. Now, they don't mean you're a better person than anybody else. None of this stuff does. But if you truly have passion for the position, and more importantly, you're preparing for the position, get some credentials to help show that you're all risk. When I was going for captain, showing my age here, God, 20 years ago, time flies. When I was going for the captain position, I obviously had my firefighter 1 and 2, but I also had other state certifications, driver operator 1A, driver operator 1. I had my fire officer cert because you could get it as a firefighter. You complete the classes, pay your fees. I also had like fire instructor certification, fire instructor 1, 2, and 3. I had what we call prevention officer 1, 2, and 3, I think it was at the time, public education officer. I had a lot of hazmat technician. I had a lot of these specialty certifications, and people go, well, why did you get all these other certifications that are not officer related? Well, all these are officer related, because think about it, as an officer, especially a company officer, you're Jack or Jill of all trades, master of none. You got to have a pretty good working knowledge of a lot of different subjects. So that's why I got all these different certifications, because I took the classes, paid the fees, and you know what? I learned a lot of things. So I think they're beneficial to help show that you're setting yourself up for that next position. Plus, as years go by, getting these certifications, just like I mentioned in the previous tip about getting your formal education knocked out early in your career so you don't have to worry about it anymore, and maybe because you can build upon it, get some of these things done, because as time goes by, just like with formal education, requirements can change and do change. Like California about 5-6 years ago had a major overhaul with all their certifications, fire officer, fire instructor, inspector, and they actually had like a number of I think it was 3, 4, 5 years of a grace period. And they told everybody up front of, hey, these are expiring or retiring, this date here. Finish it off, because once this date hits, the name has changed, the requirements change, and there is no marrying this one with this one. So you have to start from scratch. And I know so many people, even after they extended that deadline a few times, because so many people were not, I guess, planning ahead or properly managing their time or organizing themselves, there was still people that were like left out in the cold because they failed to finish up their current old existing certs. And then the new ones came. And then now what like some departments like mine require for promotional tests are the new one or the old one, but not a combination of either. So get things done when you're early in your career. Never know where you use them. So besides your state fire training or NFPA stuff, and obviously National Fire Academy, if you haven't checked out CPSC or Center for Public Safety Excellence, check them out. They're the accreditation folks. If I think there's about 300 departments nationwide, my department's one of them, but accredited fire departments. Now, you don't have to be from an accredited fire department to get these credentials. You can, I mean, but, you know, obviously, so it doesn't matter, but their website, cpsc.org, that's cpse.org, short for Center for Public Safety Excellence. cpsc.org has more information on each of these. Now, there's like in California, I got my fire officer, my chief officer in California. Those are good. I mean, those don't expire. Well, CPSC, the credentials are sort of similar to what you may have in your current state fire training, state fire marshal's office, or NFPA, or whatever else you have. But the thing about the CPSC search is there's something different. They're a lot more sometimes recognizable, especially if you're going for positions maybe out of state. Like if you're going for, say, a fire chief position in a lot of progressive departments, it's not uncommon to see, you know, minimum requirements, highly desirable qualifications such as master's degree or even CPSC chief fire officer designation or any of the 5 there. So, you know, it's not usually required, but a lot of departments now are, you know, saying that's highly desirable for one of these CPSC credentials, especially for chief fire officer if you're going for fire chief. And going back to the National Fire Academy, some departments still say for fire chief or senior up positions, highly desirable executive fire officer certification. So especially if you're looking at going elsewhere, check these things out because you know what, they're good. Now, when you take a look at one of these applications, trust me, the first time I saw one of these applications, and I've got my chief fire officer and my chief training officer. Now, I don't have a fire prevention background, so that's why I didn't get fire marshal. I'm a paramedic. I managed our EMS division for a while. I could probably stretch and qualify for chief medical officer, but that's okay. I know some people do that. You know, so I didn't go for those positions, but when you look at that chief fire, any of these applications, they're very, how do I say this? They can overwhelm you when you see the 50 pages of requirements, and it scares the shit out of a lot of people when they see these applications, but it's meant to be that way, not to be mean, but to make sure that you're prepared where you need to be. Now, they're not cheap. I think they're about $300 a piece there, but they're good for 3 years. And before you say, I don't need to do this, I'm good to go, hear me out, check them out. Here's why I tell people when they go, I don't have time to finish that app. Okay, it honestly took me multiple months. I mean, it was one of those things where I started filling it out, put it aside, came back a week or 2 later, started filling out some more sections, came back. It probably took me 6 months just to get the first one done. The renewals are easy because every 3 years, the renewal, you just demonstrate what you've done in the last 3 years. So it's a lot easier in the renewal. But back to this application, if you were mentoring anybody and helping them get ready for their future positions, or you're mentoring yourself, I guess, yeah, I guess, okay, work with me on that one. If you're helping yourself prepare for your future, if you look at one of these applications, they're free of charge. You can go on the website, download it free of charge. You only pay when you submit the application, so don't get scared that you have to pay all the money. You can download the application as a Word file, Word doc, and fill it out. When I say it's overwhelming, they're asking you to basically prove everything you have. What's your formal education? Provide transcripts, provide 3 references, provide all the training classes that you've had in the last 5 years. How about your community involvement in the last 5 years or 3 years? How about things you've done above and beyond? Maybe like teach classes, write articles, awards you've been receiving for the department or regionally or nationally. And then they get into competencies, like for chief fire officer, think about all the things a chief fire officer does: strategy and tactics, command and control, administration, budgets, human relations stuff, planning stuff, recruitment, retention, promotional exams. There's a number of categories that you actually have to demonstrate competency in to show that you're an all-risk individual that's worthy of this designation. And then someone like myself, who's a peer reviewer, reviews your application. Now, like I said, if you are someone that wants to be a battalion chief or higher, I encourage you to take a look at that fire officer. If you're still a company officer, you can't be this until you're in the position. So if you're like a captain right now thinking about battalion chief, get your fire officer done. It'll make your chief fire officer, once you're promoted to that rank, a lot easier because you've already done the one. But again, it's overwhelming. It's going to take a few months, but I look at it this way. It's a great roadmap to help show your strengths and weaknesses of where you're strong and weak in. You may be strong in command and control, strategy and tactics. You may be weak in budgeting because you don't have a lot of experience. Well, you know what? That's the good part about this huge document, is it helps provide you a roadmap of, hey, you know what? I'm great in this area or strong in this area. This is what I need to do in the future. So for those people that are going for battalion chief or higher, you need to be more all risk than just wet stuff on red stuff. I know it doesn't sound like a lot of fun, but chief is all risk. So good things to check out. Enough on that, but definitely check it out. Reach out if you have any questions. Now, here's some more examples of each of those credentials. So if you're a battalion chief or above, you can go for your chief fire officer. For the chief EMS officer, if you've got 10 years of EMS field or system experience, either as EMT, paramedic, or any of those other positions, you can qualify. Company officer level and above with supervisory responsibilities, you can qualify for fire officer. Fire marshal, requires you to have some fire prevention experience. And then chief training officer, which I also am designated as, someone that's ran a training division or a training program for your department. So, again, check them out. Don't discount it until you have checked it out. And if you are helping mentor others, which I hope all of us are doing, you're using these to pass on to other people to help inspire them as well too. Again, it's a roadmap. Plus, it's a great credential to have. So, hey, it comes down to this. Credentials, education, training are great, just like experience. But don't forget that we hire and promote people, not resumes. So you can have all this great, cool shit on a piece of paper, but you know what? We're hiring a human being that's across us on the other side of the panel that's basically, hopefully, having a good conversation, demonstrating they'll be a great fit for our family. That's what it comes down to, So get their credentials, because they may help you get you in the door, and they may help you maybe be distinguished against another candidate. And if nothing else, even if that doesn't make a difference, they're there still for you because they help you be better. So as always, thank you very much for the gift of your time. Please feel free to reach out to me, connect with me if you have any questions. I'm a resource. Hey, I work for the government. I'm here to help. So with that said, y'all take care, be safe, and then we'll see you very soon. All right. Have a good day, everybody.